Hey there, it's Wayfair here, where delivery and setup are as easy as a few taps on your phone. You're relaxing in an old hammock, scrolling Wayfair's app, when you spot it, a brand new patio set. Next thing you know, Wayfair delivers it right to your patio and sets it up. Oh, you need a new grill too? All right, Wayfair's got you covered. With Wayfair's Room of Choice delivery and fast expert setup on qualifying orders, life gets a little easier. Visit wayfair.com or the Wayfair app.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Oh yeah, look at my life. Hey now, hey now, yeah. Hey now. Oh yeah, look at my life out here on the road. Oh yeah, look at my life. Hey now, yeah. Oh yeah, look at my life out here on the road.
How you doing, friends? Welcome to Scott Fox After 9. I appreciate you tapping into this episode. Just a reminder, if you haven't already, hit subscribe. And if you don't mind, leave a rating. 5 stars would be great. But whatever you've got in your heart would be just fine. I'm going to bring in a special guest right off the top of the pod because some people have been asking me about her in my listener DMs. And we haven't heard from her for a couple of weeks. And there's a reason for that. But let's say hello to the great Anna Almeida.
Hey, it's so good to be back.
How are you?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm good. I've been trying to leave you alone because I know you're settling into your new radio show, which is pretty much all across Ontario and into Quebec. I mean, you've got a pretty sizable footprint in radio now.
It's been a lot of fun, even practicing my bonjour for my Quebec audience.
Ooh.
And I don't do it because it's embarrassing and I don't want them to hate me. So I just say hello.
Are you starting to get into a routine now?
Slowly, yes. It's a different size plate that I'm tackling, but I like it. It's a lot of fun. I do miss you, and our conversations, our banter back and forth, but it's been good.
I miss those too, and you know what? It's an adjustment anytime radio makes a change, but at least it's a change where nobody lost their job. In fact, it worked out that everybody ended up getting a promotion, really.
It's true. I was very, very thankful, and I'm not going to lie. It's been nice to sleep in past 3:45. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sleeping for us, okay?
That's great. That must be nice. Hey, while you're here, and I'm only going to take a few minutes of your time because I know you've got to get on the radio now. Some new opinion polls came out just yesterday that say even though the Ontario Liberal Party doesn't have a leader, they're still leading Doug Ford's Progressive Conservatives by 2 points. First time in, I think, 6 years that Doug Ford has been down in the polls, and he's down to a party that doesn't even have a leader.
That's embarrassing. He must hate his life right now.
Do you think it was the jet, or do you think it was something else that just set everybody off and said, you know what? No more of this.
For me, it was the jet.
Was it?
When I saw that news come out, I thought, this guy is out to lunch. Like, how are you missing the point? I mean, people can't even put food on the table and you are getting a jet? Like, give me a break. Get in the car, drive, pay the gas prices that we're paying and get to and from where you need to be for your meetings.
Well said. By the way, it costs about $13,000 an hour to fly that plane.
I can't.
Yeah, that's a lot of gas.
He should have been like, absolutely not. This is not right. Instead, he was like, I'm going to pick the best leather seats for my private jet and nobody's going to care or have an opinion. Like, oh my gosh, give me a break, people.
I should point out, since you mentioned gas, it's going up 8 cents a liter overnight in southern Ontario.
But isn't there supposed to be something where it's not supposed to go up? What was that the Liberals put in place?
Oh, they took off the excise tax.
Yeah.
That's already been eaten up.
Okay.
We're paying, I mean, I guess in theory it would be about $2 a liter tomorrow if they hadn't done that. But what they did is just not enough. I will say, though, that it got announced the other day, and not a lot of people are talking about it yet. The United Arab Emirates, I believe it is pulling out of OPEC, the oil cartel. And they're doing that because OPEC has production quotas. If you get out of OPEC, there are no quotas. You can flood the market with as much cheap oil as you want.
Oh, wow.
So when that happens, there's a lot of reason to think that gas prices may start to drop dramatically.
Oh, please let that happen. We need a break. Everything is just so expensive and it keeps climbing. We need some sort of relief somewhere.
Okay. One of these days, I got to get you back in for listener DMs.
Yes, I miss listener DMs. I miss the passion that your listeners have. And I love the interaction that you two have and listening to your opinion, regarding a question that they have. It's so much fun, actually.
So I'll tell you what, a quick story and then you can go.
No.
I got a message the other day from someone who was working in California.
Oh, wow.
And he is a fan of the podcast, loves it. And he was the one who pointed out, you haven't had Anna on in a while. So I told him the story that you're off, you're doing your own thing, and our hours don't line up anymore. And he suggested I should replace you with AI that he is developing. I know. This is the beginning, right? This is how it goes. It's the end of broadcasting.
No, he cannot replace me. All right. With AI, you don't get the comedic relief that you get from me from a bot, I'll tell you.
That is true.
It may be smoother. They may read smoother, but it's still not the personality that you get if you get me. So I'm just going to throw that out there. But thanks, but no thanks, sir.
It was great to talk to you, Anna.
You too. Thanks. All the best. And hey, listeners.
I'll talk to you soon, okay? Have a great radio show.
Thank you.
All right, friends. Yesterday, the Bank of Canada made an interest rate announcement. No surprise, they're going to leave rates the way they are. But let's find out exactly what the rationale for that is. Here is the Bank of Canada governor, that son of a bitch, Tiff Macklem.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very pleased to be here with the Senior Deputy Governor, Carolyn Rogers, to discuss the Monetary Policy Report and today's decision. Governing Council maintained the policy interest rate at 2.25%. We've held the policy rate at this level since last October. We have three key messages today. First, Canada is being buffeted by global events and geopolitical uncertainties, but our economy is growing, and we expect it to continue to grow. Second, after more than a year with inflation close to the 2% target, higher global energy prices are pushing inflation up. The surge in gasoline prices, combined with still elevated food price inflation, is squeezing more Canadians. And third, monetary policy is focused on ensuring that the jump in energy prices does not turn into persistent inflation, while helping the economy adjust to global headwinds.
I'm going to pause the governor right there just for a second. He's laid it out. These are the things that are on his mind. And I'm going to play a few more of his remarks coming up in just a second. But I want to circle back on something. He said, the economy is growing. I don't see how that's possible. To be completely honest with you, friends, I love this country with all my heart. I do. But if I'm being objective and looking around, I don't see a lot that would indicate the economy is growing. There aren't a whole ton of businesses that are expanding. In fact, all I see is a whole lot of bad news. People losing their jobs and factories and plants that are shutting down or relocating. I really don't understand how they can say the economy is growing, but maybe we'll come back to that. Here's a little more of the governor.
Let me expand on the economic outlook, the risks, and the implications for monetary policy. Since our previous forecast in January, the war in the Middle East has sent global energy prices sharply higher, increased financial market volatility, and disrupted shipping for fertilizer and other commodities. This has lowered the outlook for global growth while boosting inflation. In Canada, growth looks to have resumed after contracting at the end of 2025. Consumer and government spending are contributing to growth, while U.S. tariffs and trade uncertainty are weighing on exports and business investment. The labor market is soft, with the unemployment rate remaining in the 6.5% to 7% range, reflecting both weak hiring and fewer job seekers. Our forecast for GDP growth in Canada has not changed significantly since our January projection. The conflict in the Middle East will affect the composition of growth, but the impact on overall growth is expected to be small because higher global oil prices will increase the value of our energy exports, even as they squeeze consumers and many businesses.
And I think that right there is the part that we've got to fixate on. The governor has got a tough job to do at the moment, and I'll tell you why. It's the Bank of Canada's job to make sure that inflation stays stable, and they try and keep it in and around 2%. I'd prefer they keep it in and around 0%, but 2% is the target that they've set out. Now, what they do is when inflation goes higher, they raise interest rates. They take all the money out of people's pockets so they can't go out and spend, because when they spend, that makes the economy even hotter. And they don't want that until the inflation goes back down. When it comes to oil, what Tiff is saying here is that it's bad news that gas prices are so high because that'll have a big impact on business, particularly the businesses that we all rely on. The truckers that ship food to the grocery stores and to people that have got to get from A to B. It really hurts the economy in that sense. But it also helps the economy because Canada is an oil producing nation, and the higher the price goes, the more we get for our oil and the more tax revenue the government brings in. Which side do you think Tiff Macklem is on? Do you think he's on the side of we want higher gas prices because it's good for the national economy, or we want lower gas prices because that means lower inflation and that makes it a lot easier on the regular average individual citizens? I think he wants the nationalist approach personally. If Tiff Macklem is seriously going to consider, and he's going to talk about the possibility of rate increases or decreases, but if he seriously thinks that raising interest rates is the way to offset the inflation that's caused by a conflict in the Middle East, he is out to lunch. That is the last thing Canadians need right now, is for interest rates to go up, especially for something that we know raising interest rates isn't going to stop people from needing gas. There's certain things you need, and gas is one of them. Raising interest rates to try and slow down inflation that's being caused by gas prices, I think, would be absolutely crazy.
If the United States imposes significant new trade restrictions on Canada, we may need to cut the policy rate further to support economic growth. Alternatively, if oil prices continue to increase, and particularly if they remain elevated, the risk that higher energy prices become ongoing inflation increases. And if this starts to happen, monetary policy will have more work to do. There may be a need for consecutive increases in the policy interest rate.
And that, I think, is what nobody wants to hear. Basically, if the U.S. and Canada don't get a deal done for CUSMA, they may need to lower interest rates to try and stimulate the economy. Okay, that's good. I think everybody understands that. The economy will be under intense pressure. They've got to lower interest rates, put more money in people's pockets, let them spend it the way they want it, and try and stimulate the economy. But what he's saying is if oil prices continue to be high, they may raise interest rates. And he said it may be consecutive increases to try and tamp down that inflation. And frankly, I don't understand how raising interest rates is going to affect that inflation at all. I think it's a completely preposterous thing to even consider. I think Tiff Macklem is not good at his job, not a smart individual, clearly very boring. He is... it is amazing that guy still has a job. But I do recognize, though, even though I dislike the man for what he did to so many Canadians, I do recognize that he does have a tough job to do. He's got to steer this one right, or it could be catastrophic for our economy. Yesterday on the pod, I did a pretty deep dive into the spring economic update for Canada that was presented by the federal government. I want to play for you some of the reaction now. Pierre Poilievre went out and met with the media yesterday after I recorded my episode. Here is Pierre Poilievre reacting to the spring economic update.
Friends, I ask you this question. What's changed after a year of the Carney Liberals, other than the illusions? Well, other than the fact that Carney's doubled Trudeau's deficit from $31 billion to $65 billion. What's changed? More cost? More debt? More taxes? More on the national credit card? Mark Carney is just another Liberal, and Canadians will be paying the price through higher inflation at the grocery store, at the pump, and when they go to buy a home. This is the most costly government in Canadian history, the highest spending as a share of GDP since 1996, outside of COVID, the biggest deficit in Canadian history ever outside of COVID was last year under this Carney Liberal government. Mark Carney is just another Liberal. Now, I found it interesting that he's discovered that there's trades workers. We've been fighting for boots and suits for a very long time. But here's the problem. Because of anti-development Liberal laws and taxes, there's 200,000 unemployed trades workers. So while we want to train more, we're worried they're going to come into a job market where there's no paychecks for them. We need to unblock our resources, approve a pipeline now, get rid of the industrial carbon tax, and reverse the Liberal housing crisis in Vancouver and Toronto, the biggest construction markets in the nation. So these people actually have jobs when they get trained up. So that would be a real change. We also want to cut bureaucracy, consultants, foreign aid, corporate welfare, handouts to phony refugees to bring down debt, taxes, and inflation, so Canadians can actually afford to live again. Thank you.
Okay, that's Pierre Poilievre's response. Interesting that he went right to the trades workers. He must have looked at the Prime Minister's itinerary and realized the Prime Minister was about to do an announcement about trying to get more people into the trades. That's interesting, though. I did not know that stat that Pierre gave out. There are 200,000 unemployed tradespeople in Canada right now. 200,000. And the federal government teamed up with Doug Ford and the Ontario government. They're doing everything they can to try and get kids into the trades. And here's what they're doing. They're slashing the OSAP. They want to make sure that if you've got money, you can go to university and get the white collar job. If you don't have money, you are going into the trades. Doug Ford has decided that. He is now determining what your kids are going to do. That's just a reality. There's really no way to disguise that. I know he said the reason he had to cut the OSAP was because there was people ripping the system off and it wasn't sustainable. That's clearly not true. He had money to buy a jet with the money that he cut from OSAP. Now he's returned the jet, so I assume we can put the money back into OSAP. No, they're not going to do that. They're trying to drive as many young people as they can into the trades, whether they want to or not.
Will Mr. Giovanni, while he's in Washington, be meeting with the vice president or any other Trump administration officials? And what's the point of your MPs being in Washington?
I don't have any information on that, but I do at this point to share. But I can tell you that our MPs have been consistently going to Washington in order to fight for tariff-free trade. There have been, I'm guessing, about a dozen delegations of MPs over the last couple of years, and we're going to continue to fight for jobs. So what's the point? Obviously, the point is to fight for the auto workers, steel workers, aluminum workers, forestry workers, who Mark Carney has abandoned after he promised he'd have a deal by July 21st. Still no deal, still no wins. The tariffs have doubled and broadened. And Mark Carney has delivered absolutely nothing. So we're going to keep fighting for jobs.
What do you make of the police powers to search mail and the criminalization of cryptocurrency ATMs being worked into this economic statement?
Well, if you want to search someone's mail, why don't you just get a warrant? If someone has reasonable suspicion that mail has drugs or explosives or something in it, put the package aside. Get a rush warrant, open it up. And that's how it works. If you want, for example, if you're a police officer and you want to search someone's house, you get a warrant. And that's how it has always worked. I don't see why that's a problem. So.
Do you think
Going to leave Pierre there. For those wondering, why would that question come up? One of the things that is baked into the spring economic statement, there's a few things that have nothing to do with finances, and one of them is this. The federal government is giving police power to open the mail, giving them the power to open your mail if they want to. No warrant. What Pierre there is saying is there was nothing wrong with the way we used to do it. If you were suspicious about something that may or may not be in a package that's being shipped or a letter that's being sent, you've got to go and get a warrant. And a judge or a justice of the peace will review why you think you should have that warrant, and they'll make a determination on whether or not that's right and just. And if it is, they'll give you a warrant so you can open the mail. What the Liberals are doing is bypassing that completely, and I can't figure out why. I'm not exactly sure what it is they're looking for in the mail, but this stinks. This is a major encroachment on people's rights. And Pierre there is saying, no, that's not acceptable. The way we used to do it is fine. If law enforcement wants to go through someone's mail, they've got to get a warrant. And law enforcement knows that. They know how the system works, and they know how to get a warrant quickly if they need to. That's a weird thing for the Liberals to be pursuing now, giving law enforcement the power to go through your mail. Another thing that a lot of people are starting to notice, and I'm hearing some talking about it, is the plan to privatize our airports. The federal government, to try and raise money, is going to privatize our airports. Private companies will control air travel in Canada. That's it. Why would we do that? How much money is it going to raise? And what's the benefit to Canadians? That's what I would like to know. What's the benefit to the regular, average, run-of-the-mill Canadian who just goes to work and pays their bills and follows the law and pays their taxes and is just a good, upstanding citizen? What's the benefit to them privatizing the airports? Because everything I've seen about government selling off infrastructure for profit hasn't been good. And I'm thinking of the example of the 407 express toll route across the top of Toronto. That is public infrastructure that got sold to a private company Sweetheart deal where they can raise the rates to basically whatever they want, completely unchecked, and it's costing people a lot of money. Is that what we can expect from an airport privatization? Massive new fees, very expensive air travel? Is that what's coming? I'm not necessarily saying privatization is bad. There's certain scenarios where maybe it's good. But I don't know about infrastructure like airports and highways. That's a dangerous one. I'm going to leave Pierre Poilievre there, and I'm going to go on to the Prime Minister. I mentioned the trades a few minutes ago. Yesterday, the Prime Minister was at a trades convention. Listen to this.
To build Canada strong, we're catalyzing a series of nation-building projects in energy, trade, critical minerals, transport, data, and beyond. And the work's just starting. Give examples. Last spring, construction began on the Darlington new nuclear project here in Ontario. This month, we broke ground on the Contrecoeur terminal expansion at the Port of Montreal. This summer, there'll be shovels in the ground in the Mackenzie Valley Highway in the north. These are just a few examples. These are projects, particularly the last two. They have been dreams for decades. Dreams for decades. We've been talking about the Mackenzie Valley Highway since I was born. They are becoming realities within months. Through Build Community Strong Fund, we're building new hospitals, public transport, community centers. Give some examples. Embleton Community Center and Park in Brampton, new roads in Laval, the Marpole Community Center in Vancouver. And our message is that we are just getting started.
Imagine that. It's been a year. And we're just getting started. Just getting started. Where does the money come from for these projects? That's what I'm wondering. Part of the reason that we have to do these nation-building projects is A, to create some jobs. No doubt we want to employ some people. And if we need work done, it makes sense that we employ Canadians to do it. But how will those things actually make the country stronger? It's all well and good to build a community center in Brampton. Fine. But how does that contribute to the overall economy? See, when the Prime Minister first came out and talked about Build Canada Strong, there was a couple of facets to it. We had to build houses because they brought way too many people here way too quickly. Okay, well, I guess we need to build houses. But we were also supposed to build projects that would build our national prosperity. I guess ports can kind of do that. All right. But where's the pipelines? I haven't heard him say a word about it. Where are the oil pipelines? That we know is going to make Canada prosperous. When we start selling way more oil than we currently are, that's going to make us a powerhouse. Why is he talking about building roads and community centers and hospitals? Don't get me wrong. I think we need hospitals. I just don't believe that they're actually going to get built. Not in short order anyway. Where are the nation building projects, the ones that generate revenue, that we can point to those as a source of revenue and say, we are building Canada strong and we are less reliant on the Americans? Building community centers and roads and things like that is great. It's infrastructure. Presumably, if they're building it, we need it. But that's just pure cost. That's not an investment in any kind. It's not generating revenue for the country. You know, here's my thought on this. As I listen to the Prime Minister and Doug Ford scramble to try and get as many people as they can into the trades, then I hear the Prime Minister make announcements like this, where he's talking about community centers and roads and how we have to build them and we need trades workers to do it. And maybe that's true, but I think they're more worried about unemployment than they are about building Canada strong right now. That's the only thing I can think of. You know, if we really were building Canada strong, we would be building projects that are going to generate massive wealth for the country. None of the things he's talking about building are going to build any wealth. None. It's going to cost us money. So if he's building these projects just to try and keep people working, that tells me that there is bad news that they know about that they haven't told us about yet. One more from the Prime Minister.
It's a tough time to be a Minister of Finance around the world. Yesterday, our Minister of Finance released the government's first spring economic update. It's the next step in our plan to build a stronger, more independent, more resilient Canadian economy. Its message: simplify it. Despite the chaos, the turmoil in the world, Canadians can have confidence in our future. As responsible fiscal managers, Canada's new government has made some tough but pragmatic choices to deliver results. In that update yesterday, the deficit is $11 billion below what we had projected just last fall, before the war started. And the deficit will keep going down every year for the next 5 years. We're cutting more than $60 billion in expenses. Within 2 years, we'll balance the operating budget right on schedule. And this matters, because just as Canadians are carefully managing their expenses, they rightly expect their government to do the same. And we know that when we spend less on government operations, Canadians can invest more for a brighter future for all. Dans cette mise à jour,
I just don't see where he's coming from on that. I want to. I just don't see where he's coming from there. The Prime Minister taking a victory lap there. Is it really a victory lap? He got the deficit. And again, the deficit is how much more we're spending than we are bringing in. $78 billion down to $66.9 billion. We're spending $66.9 billion more than we're bringing in this year. It'll be $65.3 billion next year, $56 billion by 2029, 2030. We're operating at a loss every single day. I don't know why that's not a bigger concern. I'm really trying to understand why that is not a bigger concern. And by the way, there is no path to balance in that spring economic update. If you didn't hear yesterday's episode, I highly recommend giving it a listen. One of the major issues that I've got with what they're doing is the amount of interest that we've got to pay on debt. As you know, if you take out a loan, part of your payment is interest. By 2030, we're going to be paying $80 billion a year in interest payments. $80 billion a year just in interest. How is that sustainable? Do you know what we could do with 80 billion extra dollars a year? And that's just all gone. That's going to Bay Street bankers and bondholders. Gone. $80 billion every single year. That is the interest on our debt by 2030. Completely crazy. Friends, I'm going to leave it at that. Good episode today. Tried to keep it fairly quick. Tomorrow, I'm looking forward to reading your listener DMs, and I'll have anything else that comes at it today on tomorrow's episode. I hope you have a great one. Thank you again for tapping into this episode. If you haven't already, hit subscribe. You can leave a rating if you want, or tell a friend. Scott Fox After 9 daily, giving you the counter narrative to what you're getting from the mainstream media. I'll see you back here in less than 24 hours, and I will leave you with the sounds of Pat James and the whole truth. Hey now.